It's been a week since UFC 314. I haven't been able to get on here, record a full video, but here I am. It's been a long week. And I just want to talk to you, recap, talk fights, my opinion on them if you want to hear that. And just give you a breakdown of some of the bets I put in for my subscribers, how we're doing this year. Guys, I did all the math. Everything's on an Excel, being way more organized this year. We are in profit this year, plus 36.04 units. Our return is plus 68.64 units, but that includes our initial investment. With that being said, the most important number, in my opinion, is our ROI, our return on investment. Our percentage is 43.85 this year. Tell me your investments that are coming back in 3 months at a 43% ROI. Not many, but then again, we're dealing with the most versatile sport to bet on. And I don't always get them right. We're not always profitable, but I'm doing this in a year span. And right now, it looks pretty freaking good. 36 units of profit, 43% ROI. You can't beat it. Our return, like I said, 68 units. If you want to check that out, 4.99 on my Instagram. We're going to break all that down. What I do want to say is, moving forward, I am developing something right now. It's in the works. It might take me a little bit, but I'm trying to get AI. I'm trying to get you guys a tool with AI. So not only will my subscription give you my bets, but it's going to give you confident bets. It's going to break down all the stats we have. Again, this is a lot of work to put together, harder than I thought it would be. But I'm trying to put it together because I want to continue to advance and progress with my subscription, make it better for you, make it better for me. At the end of the day, we're trying to grow here. So long story short, let me break down a few fights, give you my prediction. That's why most of you probably started following me. We're going to break it down pretty quickly. But like always, guys, if you like my videos, I appreciate the subscription. On YouTube, I appreciate your comments, your likes, your shares, everything. I appreciate all of you guys. I love talking UFC. I love talking MMA, and that's why I'm here. So let's start it off. Nora Cornell, Haley Cohen. Let's be frank. Haley Cohen won that first round. She was aggressive. Got Nora Cornell to the ground. Nora was kind of on her back for a little bit. Nora definitely the better striker. We said that. I expected Nora to win this fight. Go into round two, Nora actually comes out getting a submission, being more aggressive. And I was scared going into round two because I said, no way I'm losing. First fight of the night. I was pretty confident in Nora, and I had her in a parlay, her and Alexachuk. And ultimately, she got the sub. I thought that was good. Exactly what we expected. As far as her performance, I thought she was going to knock out Haley or go into decision. I would have bet on decision. She got the sub. That's great. We move forward from women's MMA. Trayshawn Gore versus Marco Tulio. I don't want to take anything from Trayshawn Gore. I made jokes about him looking like Torres Finney. But we just got to give kudos to Marco Tulio here. I have no idea how he didn't get performance of the night. He absolutely dominated Trayshawn Gore. The striking was impeccable. That was one of the better striking performances I've seen in a long time, in my opinion. I think Marco Tulio proved that there's a lot of potential and he is an up and coming star. Of course, now we have to see a little bit of jumping competition, but Marco Tulio is no one to play around with. I think he was like a minus 300 favorite. Don't quote me on that, but well deserved. And there was some hesitation with him for a lot of people because, like I said, I listen to other people, I read a lot. There was some hesitation, being that Trayshawn Gore could take this to the ground potentially. There was none of that. Marco Tulio maybe made like one mistake in the fight, and it was going for like a spinning back fist at a shitty time. Other than that, he absolutely dominated Trayshawn Gore. Masterful performance, elite performance. Highly recommend if you haven't seen that fight. That is quite the skill set to have on Marco Tulio. Sumaderji, Mitch Raposo. At this point, we were 2 for 2, and this is where I got my first loss. I did go underdog here. I did go underdog because Sumaderji is a great striker. He's long. This matchup is favorable for him in the striking department, but I really did think Mitch Raposo was going to be able to get him down, gain control time, and I thought that's how he was going to win the fight. Ultimately, he actually got a split decision, if I remember correctly. Was it split? I think somebody, yeah, there was a judge who gave it to him, which I don't know what he saw. Pretty good 29-28. If they said 30-27 Sumaderji, I would have understood. Mitch Raposo was just had no output. And going into round three, his coaches literally told him, it's like, we need output, man. There was times he would just stand in front of Sumaderji and it's almost like he froze up. I don't know if he got hit with a couple of good shots that made him really second guess moving forward, but every time Sumaderji really stood in front of him, let a 1-2 go, Mitch Raposo had to reset. He backed up, reset. So Sumaderji had all the octagon time. He had the significant strikes, and Mitch Raposo gained like no, sorry, not three takedowns, like 8 takedowns, if I remember correctly. I'm going off the top of my head here from last week, guys, but there was nothing. I think the longest control time he had was like 11 seconds, at least in the first 2 rounds. I remember that stat. And it's like, you can't take a guy down. He gets on a knee. You take him to the cage and he gets up to his feet. You can't expect to score a lot of points that way, even though, a takedown does matter, but no control, no damage, no advancement in position. I think Sumaderji just fucking mauled him, really. Mitch Raposo looked like a gun-shy kid. It's not what we expected. We needed more output. And even when his coaches led him to that direction, he didn't do it. So I think Sumaderji won that fight fair and square. Some people were like, oh, I could see the split. I don't. I think Sumaderji won that fight fair and square. Very disappointed in Mitch Raposo. If he puts a performance up like that again, he's getting cut if he hasn't already. Next up, Cedricus Dumas and Alexachuk. Now, training with the Fighting Nerds. I know that was a huge topic going into this fight. I didn't take it into account. What I did take into account was his previous fights. Alexachuk is dangerous. He's out here knocking guys down all the time. He knocked down Kevin Holland in the first round, got caught in a sub. And we were worried about the ground game. And some people said Dumas's ground game, maybe he'll get some control time. Bullshit. Alexachuk went in there. We bet Alexachuk by knockout, and we had him in the parlay with Nora. We won both of those bets. Alexachuk got in there, dropped them, ground and pound. I will say there was like a sense, there was like a part of me that said it was a little early, because even though Alexachuk was just ground and pounding Dumas was defending. I mean, he was in a defensive position. Now, he wasn't necessarily making his way out of it. He was just taking it. A lot of those punches were hitting his arms, his forearms, his shoulder, everything but his face. But he was just sitting there taking 20 shots, even though they were being blocked. It didn't look good. He had just gotten dropped. So ref stepped in. I think it could have gone a little longer. Maybe if Dumas would have worked, he could have gotten out of there, but I don't think we would have seen a different outcome. I think they should have stopped the fight. If not, then a few blows after. You can't just sit there almost in a fetal position, take shots, even though you're blocking them. You gotta make a move. The ref's gonna stop it. You look helpless. So love that fight. Darren Elkins, Julian Erosa. I'm gonna be honest with you. Julian Erosa looked a lot better than I thought he would. Darren Elkins looked a lot worse than I thought he would. The damage was coming off a win. He looks durable like always. He's the damage. Not the most powerful guy, not a guy who's gonna finish anybody, like I've said before, but just durable, man. He gets out of positions, does a lot of different things. And then my concern was Julian Erosa, finding a sub. Darren Elkins going for a desperate takedown, Julian Erosa finding a sub, even though Elkins is hard to submit. But Julian Erosa looked pretty decent. I'm not saying he looked great, but decent enough to beat an aging Darren Elkins. And I just have to say that stoppage was a crime, especially compared to the one thing I'm going to talk about later on in this video. But my God, I know he's the damage, but that he's not well. Like, a few years got taken off of his life. Like, Julian Erosa was just hammering the side of his head for so long. That fight could have been stopped fucking 25 seconds before it got stopped. Long story short, Julian Erosa proved his value. I thought minus 350 was absolutely nuts. I didn't put money on him because I just didn't agree with it. He's not trustworthy in my opinion, but he had a good performance. Good for him. Jim Miller, Chase Hooper. I did have Chase Hooper in a parlay, not him actually. I had him winning the fight, but I had him under 2.5. I really thought he'd be able to get Jim Miller out. Chase Hooper's impressive. He's getting better. He's improving with his striking. I think he really has gone from a little boy to a freaking man in the UFC, even though he still looks like a little boy, but he's very good. This kid's the real deal. Here's my issue. You're going against Jim Miller, fairly durable guy, very durable guy, to be honest with you, and you want to make a statement. Jim Miller is a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Not saying Chase Hooper couldn't have submitted him, but I think Chase Hooper was hunting that submission a little too much. And being that he could now be exciting, he had a few successful 1-2s that he shook up Jim Miller. I guess he was respecting Jim Miller's knockout potential, because he was just looking for that submission too much. And it almost felt like we were watching a BJJ competition, like straight on the mat, something in, like the UFC Invitational. I didn't like that. I don't think you, being an up-and-comer, wanting to be exciting, looking for more, should be backpacking Jim Miller. I don't think you should be riding him for 3 minutes in a round and then looking for it again in the second round. Jim Miller went into round 2 with his mouth open. He was exhausted. Round 3, I was like, no way he doesn't get a finish here, because he was done. He was just absolutely exhausted from having Chase Hooper on his back, from Chase Hooper giving him the craziest scrambles. And again, Chase Hooper's so freaking good. His scrambles, his transitions, everything is just so clean, and he's not unorthodox, right? I guess guys who know BJJ know that he's just really good. But in the UFC, he does these things we're not used to seeing, and it's impressive, but it's not going to sell. And I think Chase Hooper needs to get a little more comfortable striking, especially when they put you with a name like Jim Miller. I know he beat Clay Guida as well. He says he wants a younger guy. I want to see it as well, but he needs to get a little more comfortable striking, and he needs to understand that the fans, and let's be honest, it's not about the fans, but guess what? Hunter Campbell, Dana White, all these guys, Sean Shelby, the guys making decisions don't want you to backpack a guy who already does jujitsu, because the day they give him a striker, they know he's just going to do that, and he needs to just be. He needs to broaden his game a little. That's my opinion. Of course, he got the win, but I think this was a fight that needed to finish within the distance. He took it to decision, and Jim Miller won a round, which is kind of crazy to me. Yan Xianan, Verna Jandiroba. I'm going to be honest with you. My initial pick was Yan Xianan. I changed it last couple of days. I even had a unit bet. I cashed it out. And then I went Verna Jandiroba decision because I started watching tape. And I felt a little less comfortable with Yan Xianan on the ground. Zhang Wei Li took her down, had her way. A few fighters have taken her down, had her way. And then I said, Verna probably finds a sub. Now, Verna could either be so good in early rounds, but then kind of fades. And in this fight, I think she looked a lot better. I was shaking because I said I put Verna to win, not by decision. It was Verna over 1.5 rounds. So Verna had to win either inside the distance after 1.5 rounds or by decision. And luckily she won in decision. But at the end of the first round, man, she had locked in an armbar that if they gave her another 10 seconds, Jan was out. Round two, similar situation. She had a few submissions that she almost had Yan Xianan, and it just proved what we thought. It was 2 + 2 = 4 in this MMA math. Verna Jandiroba had her way. Yan Xianan had a couple of moments early in the fight as far as striking, but once Verna got her to the ground, it was game over. And unlike what we've seen historically, Verna Jandiroba looked good all 3 rounds, and she looked like a title contender. There's things she has to clean up for Zhang Wei Li, but Yang Xianan was no match for her. Verna, I wish she found the sub because it would have, made things a little more excited, her becoming a contender. But Verna's a real deal. Her cardio held up. She's really a submission threat at any point. But I wish she would have finished Yan Xianan here. I think she had the potential. I'm sure a lot of people had that on their slips. But that's another bet we won. Dan Ige, Sean Woodson. Very controversial. I believe it was the same referee who let Elkins die. I don't know if he got bitched at backstage, but Dan Ige, man, one shot power is what he was looking for, and definitely had some moments, had the more damaging shots. But I still haven't looked at the stats because once I saw the scorecards, I was like, this is bullshit. Maybe it's because I had Sean Woodson winning that fight. I didn't have money on it, but I did pick him to win. But Sean Woodson, in my opinion, won the first 2 rounds. He had the volume. He kept the distance. Dan Ige had some moments, but it didn't. I don't think it triumphed what Sean Woodson had done. I don't think it did any of that. I think Sean Woodson did a good job of having output and understanding that Dan Ige is dangerous. So he kept him at bay, landed good strikes. I think he was winning the fight. He had the output. However, you could argue that Dan Ige had some damage. Long story short, we get to round 3. Sean Woodson gets dropped. He would have lost that round, that's for sure. But ultimately, he goes for Dan Ige's ankle, and it was close. Initially, I was like, oh, that's kind of bullshit. But when you watch the replay, Sean Woodson took a lot of blows on the side of the head. And as soon as that ref is stepping in, that's when he's getting up. And it's like, did you start making a move because you saw the ref coming in, or were you really going to do that? I don't know. It's hard to tell. I don't think the stoppage is as bad as people were saying. It was very close. I think, what are you going to wait for? 2 more strikes? So I think that really depends on the ref. But the fact that the ref let Elkins die in there, and then Sean Woodson was kind of premature, I was pretty annoyed. But then when I saw the judges scorecard, everybody had Danny Gay up round 1 and 2. I have to rewatch that fight. I didn't do my due diligence there. I was pretty annoyed about it. Again, no money on it, but I don't know. I think they really wanted Danny Gay to win that fight. I had Sean Woodson up 2-0. Nikita Krylov, Dominick Reyes. Guys, Dominick Reyes is back. And I'm still worried about his chin. I'm not going to say that I'm going to bet on him constantly. I think a safe bet with Dominick Reyes at this point is that the fight doesn't go the distance. He's slept the last 3 guys. Before that, he got slept by 3 guys. this is becoming kind of fun to watch Dominick Reyes, and he full on comeback. Nikita Krylov 2 year layoff. I thought he was gonna come out swinging. He did with his crazy fucking kicks, his nonstop pressure. It's exactly what he did, and he had a moment or two where I'm like, okay, he's gonna catch him soon. Dominick Reyes did exactly what he needed to do. There was a few kicks that Nikita Krylov brought out of nowhere. He does this cool thing where he'll come in with some combinations punching, and as the guy's circling out, he just fucking spins out and throws a fucking wheel kick up or a crazy kick to the head. It's really impressive. I like watching Krylov. I think he's really fun. But Dominick Reyes fought that fight really well. He kept his distance. He was defending properly. All his shots, everything Krylov had that was unorthodox or unexpected, it's like Dominick Reyes knew it was coming. So, good tape study, whatever it was, he was prepared. He looked good. And then ultimately, Krylov just says, okay, and this is in round one. It's like 2 minutes into round one. Krylov just comes in with this freaking combination. He misses the first punch. He's like loading up. But guess what? No defense. No defense whatsoever. If you see the picture, it's Krylov's face like this. Dominick Reyes just kind of takes a step back like a Conor McGregor. They kind of compared it to Conor McGregor knocking out Aldo. He steps away from the big punch and he just comes in with the cross and he just knocks out Krylov. It was bad. Like he just lights out. He shut off. One of those things where you're lunging forward and the body just drops down. It was really good, very impressive. Dominick Reyes is back. I did have Krylov here, but I had some action in under 2.5. I should have gone under 1.5, but that's good. Bryce Mitchell, Jean Silva. Look, Jean Silva, he's great. He's made us a lot of money in the last 6 months. This guy's coming in the last year, really coming in, knocking out everybody. The big concern was Bryce Mitchell's grappling. I wasn't too concerned about that. I was confident enough to say that I feel like John Silva's going to get away from the submission threat. I think John Silva's going to be able to get up. Now, if Bryce Mitchell can be a dominant grappler and keep him on the ground, I hope that he hasn't taken too much damage, because that's how I think he'd win, by decision. That's what I really thought Bryce Mitchell's plan was. I didn't think he was going to submit John Silva. Boy, were we surprised to watch this fight, because number one, Jean Silva, a lot of people think he's arrogant. I just really believe this guy thinks he's like the best in the world. And he is trying to be a showman, and he's being a little extra, and he's kind of annoying in press conferences, and he's doing a little too much, but for good reason. This guy's fucking good. This guy is as good as it gets right now. And I think he's on some shit, because he's like the Energizer Bunny, bro. This is like Marab, like a fun striking Marab of energy. John Silva was having his way with Bryce Mitchell. And throughout the fight, I was like, bro, this guy's playing with his food. I was concerned that Bryce Mitchell would come with an overhand right and get a lucky shot, because there was times that John Silva was looking at Dana White or looking at the crowd, talking to people. He literally had Bryce Mitchell in striking range and he was looking away and just dodging with his head. It was insane. And all of a sudden, we get out of round one. Bryce Mitchell was getting dominated already. And then round two, John Silva just comes in. Bryce Mitchell looks a little tired. And he fucking pulls out this crazy ninja choke that when as soon as he scooped that shit up, it looks so locked in, and he drops down to the ground. Bryce Mitchell tries to turn over, and he just looked like he was gonna get decapitated. It was insane, and Bryce Mitchell tapped. And whoever had Jean Silva winning by submission, just congratulations. Congratulations. But this is another slip we hit. I had Jean Silva winning within the distance, and he freaking did it, man. I think this guy's the real deal. I think a lot of people were rooting for Bryce. I think Jean Silva also made a lot of enemies with his arrogance, and Bryce kind of made it like a good versus evil. I had some guy DM me saying, oh, so you're a Satanist? And I'm like, why? Because Bryce Mitchell said this is good versus evil? No, bro, these are fights. And I picked Jean Silva, luckily, because if not, I would have gotten swept in the main card, unfortunately. And yeah, Jean Silva, man, future star. I'm excited to see him. Oh, another shit fest. Yair Rodriguez, Patricio Pitbull. I'm gonna be honest with you. I've never been high on Yair Rodriguez, and that's gonna be for a while. I'm just not high on the guy. Good kicker. I just don't think he's ever gonna be champion. I don't think he's a good contender. I mean, I don't think he's a bad contender. I think he's a gatekeeper per se. And I know he was interim. I know he's had good performances, but I just don't think he could really compete with, like, if he would really become champion, and not interim, become champion, beat Volk or something like that. I don't think he gets a defense. I think the next guy up beats him. That's just how I feel about Yair. I think he's too weak grappling. I think his striking is fantastic, but you have a powerful guy who could make reads on his kicks, and he's gonna beat him. And Patricio Pitbull to me is just older, smaller, and is not bringing any IQ into the cage. I kept joking on my Instagram. I was like, this guy came to watch the fights. He was so so frozen out there. Zero output. Him and Mitch Raposo, they had like a deal. Like who could go through the fight with throwing the least amount of out of punches and just the least amount of output. And that's what he did. And I regret betting on him because I was so on the fence in that fight. But I said, you know what? Fuck it. Let's go underdog here. Because I thought there was good underdog potential. I really thought this was a 50-50 fight, depending on how Pitbull pulled up. But he pulled up to watch, and I have an issue with that. There was a point late in a round where he freaking grabbed an arm, Yair's arm, when they were on the ground, and he almost snapped his arm and almost had an arm bar. I was going crazy, but Yair was able to get out, and the round ended. But just nothing. Yair had big moments. Yair looked better. Great striking, great output. I mean, just way better than Pitbull. He earned that win. Now, him calling for a championship fight, him saying that him and Diego, if Diego won, go to Mexico. Like, who the fuck do you think you are? Who do you think you are? And then saying, like, oh, Volk to come to Mexico. Why would Volk go to Mexico to fight you? Why would anybody go to Mexico to fight you after coming off losses and then beating Pitbull? No, Yair needs at least another fight, someone in the top 5. He needs to win in a dominant fashion. Then we could talk about a title. But Yair Rodriguez has no reason to be anywhere near a title fight. Maybe I'm biased. Maybe I'm being, an a-hole, but that's just how I feel. So props to him. I think great gatekeeper, but that ends there. Michael Chandler, Paddy Pimblett. Paddy Pimblett, another performance of the night. I have to eat my words because I said Michael Chandler is a huge jumping competition. Michael Chandler is the Energizer Bunny. Michael Chandler could find a finish. Michael Chandler could finally test that Paddy Pimblett chin, that chin we always see in the air. Paddy Pimblett fights like that. We've seen a lot of mistakes from him. And let's be honest, guys. Paddy Pimblett lost to Jared Gordon. Not digging at Jared Gordon, but he lost to him. And the first real performance where I'm like, okay, this kid's good is when Paddy put out Bobby Green. His Bobby Green shot because he was hurt and he submitted him. Great job. But do not compare Bobby Green to the top of the lightweight division. You just can't do it. So, yes, this was a huge jumping competition. And I had my doubts on Paddy Pimblett. And I was proven wrong. And now moving forward, guess what? I know exactly what Paddy's capable of. And maybe I needed to see that fight. But I don't care what anybody says. The improvements this guy has made is incredible. It is night and day. He looked like a championship contender in there, which previously he had it. So props to you if you knew that was going to come, right? But this guy's been developed properly by the UFC. He's maturing in the octagon like no other. He has the experience now. He's used to the bright lights, and he looked huge in there, man. There was a point where Michael Chandler went to his corner, and his corner was like, "Hey, man, you got to get in there, man. Like, go to the body, then come up to the head." Chandler looking for the shot at the whole time, but he was just whiffing, man. And this is Chandler who's landed on everybody, on Charles, on Gaethje, on Poirier, but he couldn't close the distance against Paddy. And that says a lot because Chandler's fought the best of the best. Chandler's really fought the best of the best. And he is getting older, and maybe he didn't look as good, but he went 5 rounds with Charles a few months ago. So anyone who was like, no, bro, I knew that Paddy was going to starch Michael Chandler, bullshit. I think that's a bad read. I don't think you really, I think you hoped that, but no one was certain of that. No one was, not with what Paddy has shown before. But guess what? He's made the necessary improvements. It's been close to a year since he fought Bobby Green. And you know what, man? Kudos to him. I was super impressed by him. I ate my words. I'm meeting him now. And Paddy Pimblett has a huge future ahead of him in the UFC. And I think there's some great matchups for him. I could see him going against Charles. He needs to beat somebody else to then get a title shot, but he's the real deal, man. He looked great out there. He dominated. He broke down Michael Chandler, and he busted him open, man. And when he mounted him at the end and Michael Chandler couldn't do a thing, I was just like, God, this kid is good. But yeah, man, as soon as Michael Chandler sat on that stool and he said, I can't get to him. He said he alluded to like, I can't get to him. He's too far away. I was like, what? Are you kidding me right now? Michael Chandler like sounded desperate. He was like, I can't get to him. There's nothing I could do. And I'm like, dude, that's not good. So props to Paddy Pimblett. Hell of a fight here in that win. And now we get to the main event. Guys, Volkanovski's my favorite fighter. Been for years. Diego Lopez was my favorite prospect, still is. Now I think, Jean Silva's up there as well, and a lot of the fighting nerds, really. But Diego Lopez, I've been on him since he fought Evloev off short notice, and he put on that performance. I said, this kid's going to be the real deal, and every fight after just built on that. I love his persona. He's confident. He's himself. He's not trying to be something he's not. He's exciting. His fight style is good. He's a great striker, great grappler. And, Volk was coming off 2 losses. His chin got tested. I trusted and bet on that Diego Lopez was going to go in there and find the finish. And I said, my breakdown said, if Diego Lopez doesn't get Volk out in the first 3 rounds, Volk wins by decision because I know he wins round 4 and 5. And I was also wrong about that because Diego Lopez looked the same from round 1 to round 5. And I give him props for that. His first 5 round fight against one of the best cardio machines we have in the UFC because Volk doesn't get tired and he put up a fight. And Volk won that fight, no doubt. I think it should have been 3-2, to be honest with you, because Diego Lopez landed that knockdown in round 2, even though 2 judges didn't give it to him. He landed a knockdown where Volk didn't land a knockdown that round. He made Diego Lopez stumble, but he didn't land a knockdown. Lopez landed a knockdown. So I think they should have given him that round, even though Volk had better output. But the whole fight, man, and especially the first 2 rounds, I was a little annoyed because I felt like Diego Lopez, I don't know if it was the bright lights, I don't know if he was prepping for 25 minutes, but he was slow to get at it. He didn't let loose. And there was a couple of times that Volk kind of closed the distance and he was willing to stand and bang with Lopez. And I was like, man, Volk, what are you doing, brother? But it worked out. And let's be frank, Volkanovski just looked better than ever. I felt like he looked faster. I felt like my TV was on time 2 speed when he was striking. His jab was beautiful. His movement was beautiful. Everything was great. He got chinned at one point, and then Diego Lopez also, I guess, the glove kind of hit Volk's eye and he kind of blinded him. And then in that round, Volk was running for like a minute. He couldn't see. And when he got to the stool, he was like, I'm getting my eyesight back now. And even though Volk again was dominating like 2 minutes of that round, Lopez had him retreating the rest of the round and he wasn't landing a lot of strikes. But I thought it should have kind of messed with the judges' scorecard a little bit. And I really do think this fight could have been 3-2. Most had it 4-1. But Diego Lopez put up a fight, and I think he needed this experience. I think he's only going to get better. At the end of the day, I said it, Volkanovski's a better fighter. We all knew that. But, the aging Volkanovski in the featherweight division, he's been chinned twice. What's going to come of it? Nobody knew. And I think I made the right read here. I said Diego Lopez, and I liked him early. I just took money line just in case. I'm glad I did because that fight could have been a little closer, and Diego could have won a decision. But Volk did everything he needed to do. Full kudos to him because he's that guy, man. Volk is that guy. He is definitely the best featherweight of all time. I think you can't deny it now, even after those 2 losses he took. But he's back on top. He had the better performance. I think the right guy won the fight. Diego Lopez has a lot to prove. And I think he's going to. I think Diego Lopez is going to be back in this spot. That's one of the things in my Instagram I said he's going to be back here again. No matter what, Diego Lopez is that talented. He's only going to get better. And I think he's going to learn a lot from that fight because he was a little gun shy. And I think the game plan wasn't there. I think Volk had the right game plan. I think Diego Lopez kind of came in there and said, let me respond to what Volk delivers, where I think it should have been the other way around. I think it needed to be Diego Lopez pushing the pace and Volkanovski making the adjustments. But again, props to Volk. Great fight. Super excited for him. Super happy for him. Happy that Diego had this experience and the featherweight division just got a whole lot more interesting. Guys, I appreciate all the support. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you hate me. Let me know if you love me. Let me know what you think about the fights. Always a pleasure. Have a good one.